All records pertaining to personnel management in the town, administer employment, training, and employee development programs, whether funded by the town, the state, or the federal government. Evaluate periodically the effectiveness of the personnel system and this bylaw. Ensure that the town act affirmatively of all persons, gender, disability, sexual orientation, marital status, all that stuff, equal rights things. Ensure recruitment, selection, appointment, and removal of employees consistent with the bylaw and policies adopted by the bylaw. Ensure the preparation and maintenance of a pay and classification plan, including pay schedule, classification plan, and job descriptions. So the board, by its power and authority, can vote to give as much or little authority to the town coordinator. When things come up, people call, well, what's the matter with my pay, my deductions, this. We have an issue with, we need approval to, purchase something. We have a little issue with maybe a couple of employees or a department. We have a decision to be made on to repair something, to do this, to give okays on just the day-to-day operation of the town. And as I said, it came up recently. An item was, put off, and by the time we had a meeting, if we had discussed and voted, perhaps the issue would have been taken care of. The decisions can be made for the day-to-day stuff. Any major thing, again, the responsibility is still on the Board of Selectmen. We could just vote to give more authority to the town coordinator to handle a lot of day-to-day stuff that right now he doesn't have. And we're basically paying him a salary to do that stuff, but we haven't given him any authority. And it has been, has come up, and members of the board have expressed, we should do this, we could do this. We work, 5, 6 o'clock at night, whatever the case may be. And then, you email, I need a thing from the board on this, I need an opinion on this, et cetera, et cetera. And it come up, so I put this on the agenda for the board to discuss, kick it around, not necessarily expecting or wanting or looking for a vote and a thing tonight, but just so it's on the record that we do discuss it, and board members can, if maybe they have or they can in the future, write down, we can come to a consensus of the duties and responsibilities that we could at least vote on to give the town coordinator, which would improve I believe, the efficiency and expediency of things that come up in the day-to-day operation of the town. It's not like a business for profit, but it is nevertheless a business or a corporation, and it needs someone that can handle the day-to-day stuff. Ken?
The issue as it's come up, and what I find particularly important, is dealing with employee morale, and that in the same way that a lot of voters would get frustrated and do get frustrated at certain times because they think, well, I emailed the selectmen and I haven't heard back or they haven't done anything about it, and I've said this before, that no individual selectman has any power to do anything. It's just our ability to vote as a board. So it takes things a long time because we can't even discuss them until it gets put on an agenda, that's published. We discussed it in open meeting laws. So the problem that I believe that we're having, and what, as Jeff alluded to, is that with regard to employees, if there's an issue where something isn't getting done by an employee that should be getting done, the town coordinator position as it reads now says that the town coordinator has direct supervision of the is selectmen support staff, and provides general advice and counsel to department heads. So if there's an issue where department head isn't getting something done, we need this done by Friday, well, none of us have the authority. I can't call them up and say, I'm ordering you to do this, because as an individual selectman, I don't have the power. If Mr. Ritter doesn't have the power to do it, it makes it really difficult to get things done. And I think I'm getting the feeling, and well, more than the feeling, I've heard that some employees, and completely understandably so, are getting frustrated with that, where they send us emails and we don't respond to them because it's a group email, and if we respond to it, it's a violation of the open meeting laws, because since we're not allowed to talk about things as a group. And this is a good way, I think, to, as Mr. Bennett said, it's a good way by allowing and authorizing the town coordinator to handle these personnel matters in particular that may come up. We could always put in a caveat that says, any disputed, so if that town employee then gets upset about something, that it can then come before the board and we can discuss it and vote on it kind of after the fact if need be, but at least the situation can be dealt with. So that the taxpayers don't lose money, or any other problem that may arise, we don't violate some law because we have to wait a month until we meet again to discuss something. So I think that authorizing the town coordinator to handle those day-to-day matters, particularly when it comes to employment, I'm not talking about hiring, firing people, I'm just talking about giving him the authority to say, you need to do this by Friday, to whoever that may be, when it needs to be done by Friday.
Thank you.
I agree with what Ken is saying. It's especially important for workflow, for the town to get its business done, to set the tax rate, so we're not in a position where we're setting the tax rate in March in the last town, to do so in the Commonwealth. There are major workflow issues that need to be resolved, and we can't handle them on an individual basis as one selectman at a time. So we need someone, and we have someone in a position, and I believe it's about the position, to follow through and make sure that the appropriate work gets done in the appropriate time frame, so that we're not penalized anymore.
And I also agree with both Ken and Julie that we're not a town of the 1930s anymore, where you have a board of selectmen that's probably in town all day. You've got 10 employees running the whole town's business. It's not that way anymore. The board of selectmen typically are people who work all day. We're not here on a day-to-day basis. There's a great number of employees now that have to be doing the town's business. So it's time that we advance along with the times.
I want to put a fine point on this. You read the description of town coordinator, which is another polite, more modern description of the old name of the position, executive secretary to the board. And for many years, this position would have been called executive secretary. There are still a few places in the Commonwealth where it's called that. It is a coordinating, secretarial, administrative role. The role and the job description, which is in your packet, does not have inherent decision-making authority. It has none by design. That is the question, not to be taken lightly. If you change the authority level in the position, you're going to have to modify the position description somewhat, but town administrators come in a lot of flavors and varieties. You can give them a little authority, a lot of authority. Where they have that written authority in their job description, they have administrative authority. They still respond to the board, but if you're talking about employment practices, day-to-day employment supervision, for instance, you'd carve out that narrow statement, put it in writing, and then you would delegate that to the person, and they would be not the chief personnel officer, which I am today. That's just doing the paperwork and making sure the forms are complete. That is a secretarial role. But in fact, the administrative authority as to, time, hours, appearance, grievances, etc., which is an executive authority. That's the decision to be taken, and you could apply that, to finance, to operations, to any area of governance that you choose to. I have, in a de facto sense, been placed in awkward positions for the 2 years I've been on the payroll of this town, because the town needs someone to administer it on a daily basis, and I'm called on to do various decision makings and supervisory decisions, and I don't really, my job description does not have that authority in it. It's always worked out, we're pretty graceful about it, but it can be awkward at times. If an employee or a vendor truly wanted to challenge my authority, they could. And if you wound up in court, I wouldn't have much ground to stand on.
Yes.
We had a meeting at the elementary school gymnasium 6, 7 months ago. That you board, not you, you went on, you were gone, I think. You went there, you went there. They voted to make him town administrator. Whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to, Wilder was there and Mullins was there. Everybody voted, the 5 of them voted to put him as the town administrator. You ought to know that, Douglas, you were there. You weren't there, you can't say the deal, but you should know it. You
Right, I
sat in the
thought,
back.
though-
They made a lot of noise about it.
In fact,
Now
I
you're
thought
backing down.
No, I mean, I
You're
have no
backing down.
issue. I have no issue making him town administrator.
I'll make him
I
then,
think he would do that.
what the people
But I
voted
thought the
for.
vote that was taken
The vote
was,
was taken.
I thought the vote that was taken was to give the board the authority to make him town administrator, not the vote to actually make him town administrator. So,
Find a meeting, find a
you're absolutely
find a
right,
thing.
we should.
Find the minutes. You'll find out what's said. You were sitting there in the back.
You're right,
Taking
I
the
was.
back seat again like you always doing.
Be nice.
Okay, all
Don't be
right.
nice, I'm telling the truth.
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Yes.
Stick it end up going on that particular point. There was a vote taken at the annual town meeting to create a bylaw change to end up creating the position of town administrator. That went to the Attorney General's office, and on August 22nd of this year, it was approved by the Attorney General, and it is on the website.
Right.
You can end up reading it. It does say that you have the authority to take and create that position, and when you look at the vote that happened at that town meeting, it was not a 49-46 vote. As I recall, it was not unanimous, but it was overwhelming in support of that bylaw to make that happen, to give you the authority to take and end up changing it to an administrative position and not a coordinator. So I want to just correct you that that may be an old bylaw that you're looking at, and that you really should be looking at the new bylaw. And as your coordinator said, you can end up giving as little or as much within that, because I've looked at that on a number of communities, and I have a stack of job descriptions from a lot of communities, as well as you can all do it, that I'll be happy to, they can pass those on. I didn't bring them tonight, but that's something that you should look at, and you can decide on what duties the individual should have. I mean, you can see what other communities have done. They don't give authority over the fire chief or the police chief on most communities, because they are autonomous as far as their responsibility, and so that way you only have, as a board, you only really have 3 individuals that you have to take and manage, rather than a large population as far as town employees. So I implore you to look more at that than a coordinate, calling it a coordinated position, and go towards that direction, rather than additional responsibilities under an old bylaw. We should be looking at the new bylaw and working with that.
Actually, that personnel bylaw is just, that was the description of a personnel administrator, and it's on the updated, that's the personnel bylaw. It's a totally different bylaw than making.
Well,
it,
this is the town bylaw that I'm talking about
No,
that passed.
we did do a bylaw to make a town administrator position.
Right.
No,
If
I
you look,
understand, but that's just a section of the personnel bylaw. It's not the.
no, it's on the actual bylaw, the town
Just
bylaws.
like you read from the 1998 town meeting bylaw to create the town
Administrator.
coordinator, there is a bylaw from the past town meeting
Right.
that created the town administrator.
Right, and
So
it
we
was-
have both positions
But
now
it's
on the
which
books.
section of the law it is covered under. Because, like I said, that it came up in the past, I believe John Henshaw was the chairman when this came up. Because they were trying to, and again, what was talked, and they were gonna do, thinking of doing this, and it went to town meeting and it was voted down.
Right.
But because it says it was created under 23A when it was actually created 23C, and I read the different wordings because there was some confusion over C or A, and if you read it, it sounds like A gives them more authority than C does, when it's just a longer description of the position.
I think we had gone, well, Will and I had corresponded before the town meeting to go over whether it should be broad or precise, because there are a number of articles with duties and responsibilities for a town administrator. Some go into painstakingly pages of detail on the duties and responsibilities of a town administrator. And we came up with and we discussed this at a selectmen's meeting, the wording to put on the warrant, and it was very streamlined. It was very short and brief. I don't have the.
It was
exact
actually
wording.
taken out
It's
from
the state law.
Mass General
Yeah,
Law.
it's-
Okay.
It simply cited
Yes.
state law and made it local bylaw.
Right.
It's,
With a
yeah,
few
because you
minor
can have
word
a,
changes.
you can have a strong administrator, a weak administrator, or,
Right, but
you
we
know,
didn't,
a
we didn't go
step.
into detail, we
Right.
just got to the point to get it in our bylaws that we can now appoint a town
It gave
administrator.
the authority for the select board to choose as to what level of responsibility that they wanted to, because that bylaw was so generalized, it said that to create that, and it left it up to the selectmen to take it in the, again, like you were talking about the coordinator, again, expand or, you know, as much or a little responsibilities as you wish.
which is what I want selectmen to, I don't know how much,
Well, I
work
think
or thing,
we
if
should
anyone
take
has a
this under
list of
advisement
duties.
and look at sample town administrators' bylaws,
Uh,
duties and responsibilities. There's tons of them out there.
Which leads me to my next question, and I know nobody wants to. Probably except for me, but.
Yeah, we meeting the 23rd?
Well, today's the second.
Somewhere, there's a file out there somewhere, Mr. Bennett, because I know Mr. Spring and Selectman Farrell did a lot of work.
We did.
I must have some of it somewhere
The
too, but there's
16th?
It is on the website.
job description, no, there's some job descriptions, some lists.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that would.
I have a,
The 16th?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yep, 16th.
16th fine.
Better than the 23rd.
Christmas tie on too.
Oh, Christmas tie,
I'll call
okay,
your
got
boss
it.
and tell him
All
not
right.
wearing it.
Put, write it down, Christmas tie.
Jeffrey.
So, excuse me, just 1 second. So, the 16th, is that good with you?
Yeah.
We can, have ideas. I figured that would give you ideas to write, you know, decide how far we wanna go.
Yeah.
And we can have like a full, have all that material here with us, so just
In
get
advance.
it in the record again, not again, but, yeah, I guess again, if you had a
We
meeting.
did, we had a whole
Okay.
bunch of stuff. Would that be at 6:30?
Yes, that's 16, that's Monday, it'd be 6:30 here.
All right.
All right, and so, this item would just take this under advisement and carry it over to the 16th, and then everybody can come over with their list of, their wish list to do list, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, the only thing that I just wanted to add is one more thing for us to think about over the next 2 weeks too, is depending on the number of new responsibilities that we would assign in that position, we obviously would have to consider the existing contract and kind of, you know, the specifications laid out in
You
that.
do, you have to open it up again.
Yep. Okay. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
16th?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And it is better than 26th.
Yeah.
You got places you want to be on the 23rd? Not here. Me too.
just some additional information, when I did talk to Selectman Farrell about that, putting it on the warrant, I did look at a number of the communities, because they went very, very specific as to a bylaw. when you went to this bylaw as it's written for us, all you have to do is tailor a job description calling town administrator, rather than try to make another bylaw change and go that way. I did look at a lot of communities that went that way, and I took a list of job descriptions. I would say to go out and look at other communities that have job descriptions for town administrators and not necessarily go to their bylaws. That's because you already have that bylaw. Right? The two play together.
All right, so we'll see everybody on the 16th. It'll be Merry Christmas, see you next year, I hope. Of course, I have nothing against meeting the 23rd.
How long is your shopping list?
You know,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
like this stuff, okay?
Not all of us can get it done at the New Hampshire State Liquor Store.
I don't know if that'd be legal or not, but we could have that meeting. We'd be out of state. All right, the next item on the agenda, we're having too much fun, is to discuss wording for the non-binding questions for the special election ballot concerning Chapter 93 Acts of 2000, which was the merger of the water with the light department. And to get, the other issue was the elementary school funding. And these are non-binding, which means it's really a public opinion poll question for the ballot for the special election in January for the Board of Selectmen member. And try to gauge support and give the selectmen and the taxpayers an idea how the majority of the people feel, about these two issues. One would be rescind one, and the other would be, do you continue to support going forward with the elementary school, which includes the approximately $300,000 that's still in the feasibility account. So, we have proposed draft for these two non-binding ballot questions, which means you vote yes or no, and it's not going to make anything happen. It's basically an opinion poll. We want to see where the taxpayers stand, how they feel on these two items. The first one would be, do you support a 25-year increase in your tax rate to build a new elementary school in the town of Templeton? The second one, do you support rescinding the vote taken by the town in the year 2000 adopting Chapter 93, the Acts of 2000, which transferred control of the Templeton Water Department from the Templeton Board of Selectmen to the Templeton Municipal Light Commission? Ken?
To begin with the first, I don't have a comment on the second one, but to go with the first one, there are really three issues with that. First, the wording is so vague and broad as to, we don't know if it's going to be a 25-year increase. The information that's provided does not tell you that, oh, by the way, the state's paying more than half the cost of that. So when you vote on that, the taxpayer will not know whether they are voting for a $10 a month increase in their real estate tax or a $5,000 a month increase in their real estate tax. So the vagueness of the and I understand that the language has to be vague because we don't have any of the details yet. Also, I believe that we are setting ourselves up to fail, and that I believe that Doug had brought this up before. Do we have enough time to educate the public? I don't know if it pertained to this question in particular, but the questions in general. Do we have enough time to educate the public, over the holidays in the next 5.5, 6 weeks to have these questions? That deal that we've gotten from the state, where more than half of the school is paid by the state, which I understand are still taxpayer funds, but better that our state taxpayer funds, but better that our funds stay in Templeton than go somewhere else. So I do understand that tax dollars are still paying for that other half of the school. However, that deal is contingent upon the state believing that the town adequately supports the building of this school. So by having, even though it's non-binding, I think it is not a truthful statement to say that these votes are without consequence. That we're gonna have this vote, that if there's not enough time to get the word out there, that, oh, by the way, that, you know, we can't even give people an estimate of what that tax increase is going to be yet, because we're not at that stage. People are not going to understand that we risk losing it. After the money, we risk losing the $200,000 we've already spent on the feasibility study, on top of the millions of dollars of state aid that we would be getting to build this school. By this failing, and then the state saying, okay, well, clearly the town doesn't support this. You know, it may seem like we can say, oh no, it's just a non-binding resolution, but the impact that that's going to have on the state departments that are determining when there are other towns that may be begging to have a new elementary school. And I would put money on it that the state is not gonna come back next year or in 2 years and say, oh, we'll pay for half your school again after that rigmarole you put us through before. So even though it's a non-binding resolution, I think that there's the potential that we risk the whole deal by having this fail. And if it ultimately does fail, that's a voter decision. But as Doug had said earlier, if we feel that we do not have enough time by the January vote to inform voters of the circumstances so they can be adequately informed, if they understand those facts and they still vote no, that's clearly their decision and up to them. But if that happens, there's the potential that there will be consequences, even though it's a non-binding ballot initiative. And the last thing that I would speak of regarding this particular issue is just kind of voter burnout, because as you know, we had a lot of issues explaining to voters why are we voting on things again and again and again? You know, what's the process? That's the state mandated process, this, and this. So let's say this passes and we have to have another vote in, you know, a year's time when it's time to actually figure out what the final numbers are from the state, how we're going to finance this. People are going to say, wait, I thought we already voted on this. People aren't going to really understand when we had a non-binding resolution because we've never had one in Templeton before. So whereas the second issue, I don't really think that they're wide-ranging, we're not risking funding by having that go one way or another. I feel that on the school question, that we risk the work that the school committees put in. And again, this isn't going to be something that like in 2 years, you know, if the school committee proves that they're not going to ask us for money in 3 years, then we'll come back and, you know, go forward with elementary school. Then the state may say, oh no, thank you, there are plenty of other towns that actually want a new elementary school, and we would be happy to spend Templeton state taxpayer dollars in those communities.
Doug?
I kind of agree with Ken that the first one certainly has potentially more ramifications than the second one, in my opinion. I do think, though, we could rephrase this a little bit to be a little bit more clearer. We'd have to make some assumptions, and I do believe we could do that on a non-binding thing. I've heard that, you know, 35 million is the number for the school. Whether that number is accurate, you know, could we come up with a little bit more accurate, maybe? But assuming 35 million, and, you know, our half of that is what, 17 and a half, something like that, maybe? If we took that and applied today's tax rate to it, we could come down to saying that, you know, do you support a, you know, $1.75, you know, per thousand tax rate increase for 25 years, or an approximate $1.75. I think we could hone it in so that it had a little bit more meaning to define, you know, what Ken's concerns were. Again, it would be an assumption, and we'd have to clearly state that this is an assumption or an approximation, that type of thing. So if we do move forward with it, I do think we need to do that, as well as we really have to publicize on the website right at the very beginning or at other resources, perhaps on the TV channel, you know, what non-binding, you know, why we're really doing this, and that it's really more of a survey than anything else.
We could even do town hearings, town hall meetings like we did
Yep.
for the override, to explain what we're trying to get at. The reason why I brought this up for discussion was because I've had a lot of people come up to me and tell me that they would not support an elementary school building. And because of that, I think we need to gauge the reaction. We need to get a baseline to figure out, is this true? So I'm willing to take out, a 25-year increase in the tax rate. Do you support a new elementary school in the town of Templeton? Just to find out, do the voters support that? I think that's an essential piece of information that the building committee needs to try to get this project done. The fact that we need a new elementary school is beyond dispute, but how do you gauge where the voters are unless you ask them? Before we go out to a ballot question with a dollar amount. And that if that doesn't fly, at least you would have some data, some information. And that's what my goal was, to bring it up, to discuss. Because there are ramifications and there are consequences. There are also consequences for doing nothing. And there are consequences that if you do nothing and you spend an additional $300,000 on a feasibility study, and then it doesn't fly, then you have no elementary school and you have no credibility either. So it's that kind of decision-making process. You have to kind of do a cost-benefit analysis. Is there a way to tweak this question so that we can present the information? It is non-binding. I'm not sure, voter burnout is one issue, but we're having the election anyway. This is not a separate election. So I thought of it as an opportunity to use. We're going to spend $5,500 for an election. We might as well try to gauge voter reaction, or voter perception on some issues that I think are important in town. I think the elementary school is very important for Templeton.
Just on the feasibility study was based on a dollar figure for a new elementary school of $32 million, but that was back in '09, I believe. And it's a formula, just a basic construction formula of 10% of this, and then you take 15% of that, and you're supposed to come up with $550,000. But anyway, that was the dollar figure that was originally tossed out, and that's how that feasibility figure of $550,000 came to be. Ken?
The point being, I think, well, first of all, I think that it's extremely unlikely that we're going to be able to put together kind of, again, because Christmas, it's Hanukkah now, and Christmas is in 5.5 weeks, that between, and then the election's a week and a half after that, 2 weeks after New Year's, that the chances that we're going to be able to get people together to really explain what's going on while everyone's out shopping and doing their Christmas. We just said we don't want to be here on the 23rd of December for a Board of Selectmen meeting. People don't want to be, well, except for you. But people, do they want to take time away from their families and their holiday preparations to educate themselves about this issue? And I think the biggest part is, I agree that if we could provide more details, but we don't have details and we don't have information at this point regarding what ultimately is going to happen, what the ultimate figure is going to be. For instance, a lot of people in this room would vote yes to a town hall, I'm sure, if it was that would maybe increase their taxes a little bit, if it was going to mean that it could be at at the elementary school, or one of maybe the new elementary schools that's going to be vacant, assuming the school gets built. But those same people may not, if they had the information, vote yes to a town hall, that it's going to be a 252 Baldwinville and have marble floors and chandeliers. So to just say that I support increasing taxes to build a building, I mean, you'd get everyone in this room to vote different ways on that issue, regardless of what that dollar amount is and what the building's going to be, and we don't have that information in order to make an informed decision. What I'm really concerned about is I think that, and if you think I'm wrong, feel free to express that I think that this is Templeton's, next year the state is not, we're not going to get the town to approve, because you can frame the question as we're gonna save $300,000 in feasibility money. We've already spent $250,000 in feasibility money, so you're gonna get the town to spend another $250,000 to start this process all over again. If the state says no, clearly your town does not want this money, because with this non-binding resolution. If we really wanted to just, let me know, I'll sell more cupcakes and get the postage together, and we can just send mailers to everyone. Please, would you want to, do you agree? Here's the newsletter that has all the information. Do you agree, vote yes if you think this is right, or vote no? If we really truly just wanted a poll, there are much better ways that we could do it, where we could actually give people information, because we can't do that at the polls. We can't have posters up that explains, well, this is the process that we've gone through, and this is how much taxpayer dollars have already been spent. And we could frame the question, do you feel like wasting the $250,000 already spent by voting this down at this point before we have all the information? And I'm sure that voters would vote a different way than the way the question is framed now.
Chocolate with double chocolate. That's my order.
They better have diamonds in them or something, so.
Yes, because I lost my thought.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah, it's been about 7 years ago now, but when we were working the senior center project in the very beginning, we did send out a survey. We were fortunate that a nonprofit, corporation paid for the postage, but we did a mailing to the entire town, and it was very valuable information. The surveys that we got back overwhelmingly said, yes, we need a new senior center, but they also overwhelmingly said, we're not going to pay $1.5 million, $2 million of taxpayer money for a senior center. So that gave us the guidance that, okay, we need a new senior center, but we have to find a more affordable way to do it. And the other overwhelmingly thing that came back was, we don't want it to be, 20, 30, 40-year long-term debt either. So getting the voter input is extremely important. Whether it's done this way or through some other opinion poll type of thing, through a mailing or whatever, it is extremely important. I do think we need to do that, but we need to make it meaningful so that the results that we get back, really have some information.
and the rate of reimbursement from MSBA is 59.5%, I believe is it. Not everything is reimbursable. They don't do gymnasiums, they don't do electrical, they don't do legal, there's a list of things. And they do not support multi-use, which is, I went one time, they said, well, why don't we put the senior center in New Elementary School, and MSBA is, don't work, doesn't work that way. So, yes, you've been
Thank
patient.
First
I'm
of all,
sorry.
we're going to ask people to vote on something based on just assumption. We have not even finished our feasibility study yet. Kirk is telling me the committee is in the process of doing that. We will have numbers, we will have accurate information, we will have detail. I think it's way too premature to do this until our feasibility is done, and then we can give accurate information to the people. And it's very important that they have a say in it, of course. But we've worked very hard. Kirk's worked very hard to get the land for us to do this. So I really don't, what do you mean, come on? You don't think he did? I'm sorry. I just think it's premature, and I don't think it's a good idea to do that right now. And I think we owe it to our community, the adults and the children, to go forward with the feasibility process.
There's another ballot in April, too.
Speaking of Mr. Planning Board Chairman there / School Building Committee. Yeah. When is your next scheduled meeting? And
For
do you,
what?
for the
Planning?
elementary, no,
Oh.
planning
Well, you said
stuff.
planning board.
Yeah. That's because you wear too many hats. The Elementary School Building Committee is, do you have, I know there was gonna be one, but it was canceled. Do you know when the next one will be? No.
Give me ideas. Ruth, give me ideas?
Yeah.
Like me, just
Would you,
defer?
well, I can give you an update about where the project is, if you
I
would
was
like.
just
No,
looking
what's
for
the
like
next
the next
Next
meeting.
meeting is not scheduled yet because there's work going on with the MSBA
Right.
to try to reduce the architect's contract and scope, and making sure that the MSBA will accept the limited scope, because I'm happy to say that we were able to
Nickel and dime to
take
death.
nickel and dime everyone so that we are able to complete the feasibility study by March, under budget, with a 15,000 contingency, and to get all the work done so that we can put a project in front of the voters, so they're not just guessing about what it will or will not cost. In addition, if you put this on your warrant or on the ballot and it's a no, then you have just lost 60% plus support from MSBA, because they're gonna look at the community and say, they don't want a school. And then what are you gonna do with those buildings that need new windows and new doors and new roofs and new electrical systems, and they're not handicapped accessible? I mean, it's not just a simple, don't vote for this new school, it's you have to do something with those kids. The buildings are 90 years old, the toilets don't work, there's asbestos in the floor tiles, there's lead paint in the walls. It's not just say no.
With that all aside,
Well,
it's
they
not,
signed the paper.
it's not a yes, it's not a yes or no.
All right, please,
They're
hey,
not, then who lied about it?
through the chair, please, through the chair.
Somebody lied about it.
This shouldn't be a yes or
They
no
should be
question.
fired.
Right.
Because it's not a matter of, do we need a new school? We all know we need a new school.
Right.
But how can you ask people, when you vote for a school, what exactly are we getting? Well, we don't know yet.
What's it gonna
But
cost?
just give us a yes or no.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do for any capital purchase. Want a new police station? Sure. Can you afford one? No. Well, what exactly we're gonna get, and for how much? We don't know. How can you answer a question like that? So I'd go with what Ken had said. I was thinking the same thing, and I'll just follow his lead, but do it with a questionnaire, a general questionnaire, like Doug had said as well. There's too many questions and answers to come to a final conclusion versus just,
Right.
do you support a school? I don't know. See, I did with Christmas shopping yesterday.
No.
Not until at least another month or so. I mean, it's an open, I don't even know why it's even out there. Because feasibility will get done, like Ruth had said. When we first got into this a year and a half ago, we were looking at a $300,000 deficit in the amount of money in the account to get it done with. And once again, what Ruth just said, we're getting it done on budget. A little extra time, but actually a little bit under budget, because we just said, listen, we're not wasting one penny. We're hunkering down, take our answer, or
Is it your
it's our
board's
way
wish?
of, or the highway, and they're finally listening to us. Mr. Ritter, whether he likes it or not, he has to represent us, like the cheap son of a bees that we are.
Did your committee want this on the ballot?
No.
I don't, this is the first I heard of it.
Well,
Just looking at other communities, because I did a lot of research when I said non-binding questions, I went out and I actually found out communities that have 9 non-binding questions on their ballots. And believe it or not, I found one on the school, whether they wanted a school or not. It's not a question of dollars and cents that they put out, it's a question of whether the community was ready to end up taking that debt on. And I think that the voters can end up making that decision, whether you put a dollar figure or not, whether they are willing to take and end up paying.
Were they
I mean,
doing
that's the-
feasibility studies?
that's-
hold on, hold
No,
on.
No, of course they weren't.
I'm talking, do you mind? I
Hey.
didn't interrupt you at all.
Excuse me,
I mean, I was talking, I didn't interrupt
go
you.
through the chair, or you'll be asked to
I'm
leave.
sorry, Mr. Chairman, but I mean, I did look at that, and there is non-binding questions out there, and there is on the school as well, because I looked for both of these. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one on the X 2000, but I mean, I did find one that did address the issue as far as non-binding question on a school. Not necessarily an elementary school, I believe it was a high school, rather, a district high school rather than an elementary school. So, I mean, there is communities that have done that. So that's the main crux of what I'm trying to end up saying. They have put that non-binding question out there to gauge what's going on. It's up to the board to take and decide what you want to end up doing. But I want to make sure that you are aware that there are other communities that have put that on the ballot for the townspeople to vote. It's not a question that you should do this or that.
Yes, it's been done. Ken?
Well, and just in retort to that, I would just like to say that we already, whether or not, if the question is merely, does the town want to have a school, when the town voted to spend the feasibility money to begin the process rolling and to invest time, I think we already did that. It's also, I think, disingenuous to say, well, other towns have had non-binding resolutions on schools. Maybe they did it before, when it was in the very beginning stages, like, oh, we're thinking of maybe forming together a building committee. What do you think? That's one thing. I just don't understand the rationale behind this, knowing that the feasibility study is gonna be done in March, and we have another ballot election at the end of April or May. If the point is really to provide accurate information to voters and get it, what their opinion is, as a voter, I would rather have the information so I know what I'm voting on. We can do that. We already have another election in 3-4 months, which I know many of us are not pleased with, but we do. So we have that election coming up. Why not put it on there when we actually have the information?
Can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I agree with an attorney. Being it is the holiday season, and people's attention are gonna be elsewhere, the numbers that we saw attending the town hall type meetings, which were the suggestion of Doug Morrison, that's through his experience selling doing the senior center and all the information they put out. Excuse me, please. The numbers that came were personally disappointing to me. I try to I'll do anything. Make people mad, upset, I don't care. Trying to get them to come to meetings. And as an important of issue as that was, I think we might have had 40 people maybe. And that was including the Board of Selectmen, the camera guy, the newspaper reporter. It was, so to think or hope that we would attract numbers at this time of the year, it's probably a pipe dream. People, it's that time of the year, they're not interested in politics. They're interested in the holidays, they're chasing sales. They're watching their pennies on a different form. 6 weeks away or so. Nobody wants to come to a selectmen's meeting on the 23rd. How many people are gonna wanna come to a town hall meeting, I don't know, next week, Christmas week, New Year's Eve, and the first week of January? And it's good that the contractor, specifically SBS, wants to work on the cheap, considering he made some money on the other end doing some things, so he should be working on it cheap, in my opinion, on a couple of things. In short, question 1, bad idea. However, not my decision of the board. So, everybody, I think, pretty much has had their say, and I don't mean to get rude or anything, but we do have to maintain a little organization here. We can't have a free-for-all. And I like to keep it easygoing and jovial. If you have something to say, please go through the chair. No, we don't have the worst fisticuff yelling matches. Board of Selectmen, she talked to a couple of town councils that go to other selectmen's meetings, and we're pretty calm and boring compared to a lot of those meetings. But on that note, for question 1, I would entertain a motion to put that on the election warrant. I'm assuming I will not.
I would make a motion that we do not put it on the,
Right.
yeah, that we do not,
Alright.
that we
I'll second that
eliminate
motion.
that question.
All right. Disregard question 1, non-binding, whatever, about the school. Motion made, seconded, enough said. Julie?
The motion is to disregard.
Yes.
Not included.
Okay, so I'll vote yes.
Yes,
To not put it
disregard.
on.
And a yes vote is to disregard.
Disregard it, yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes, to disregard.
And yes. All right. Question 1, in the trash can. Second, non-binding would be to ask people, and if they get their water bill, they might say yes right away, to rescind the vote taken by the town of Templeton in the year 2000 that adopted the Chapter 93 of the Acts of 2000 that
It's above my pay grade.
combined the water department with the municipal light department. The wording is transferred control of Templeton Water from the town of Templeton Board of Selectmen to the Templeton Municipal Light Commission. So if this goes on there, it would be just, again, an opinion poll. Non-binding means just that. It doesn't obligate anybody to anything. It's just, do you support rescinding that?
So I would be in favor of putting this one forward, simply because we have been trying and trying and trying to get a definitive answer on, is the water department an enterprise or not? We don't seem to be getting any support from, the Light and Water Department or from the state or, anyone else. So I really have no issue with moving this one forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Doug. I feel that this would be a good thing to have on there, particularly in light of the recent increases and the lack of clear direction regarding how we are to construe that law, the taxpayer dollars that it spends when employees have to argue back, no, you should not argue, but, have to, you should be doing this, no, you should be doing this. This would just provide a lot of clarity to the situation, not necessarily this non-binding resolution, but if it passes, it may encourage certain groups to maybe, or, to be more forthcoming with information, because of the support that it has garnered in the town. So I would definitely 100% support this. I don't think that it should be looked at as a anti-light and water kind of thing. I don't think that it's on there for that purpose. I think that the purpose is to provide clarity as to what the law requires of us. So I fully support it.
Anybody else?
We're just chasing our tails, trying to figure out exactly if it's an enterprise or not, between the investigation, between the letters to the Attorney General, to the letters to Senator Brewer, the letters to the DOR. The town needs an answer. It's hurting us financially not to have this information. And this is one way to try to gauge, was this a mistake?
To further muddy the waters, I was looking at the water rate study done by Ty and Bond, an engineering consultant firm. And on page 8, down at the bottom, interestingly enough, it says, according to the Templeton Municipal Light and Water Plant financial statements, the department, the water department, is considered an enterprise fund of the town of Templeton, Massachusetts. The operations of the department are accounted for with a separate set of self-balancing accounts organized on a proprietary fund type enterprise fund basis. I don't know how you say it's not an enterprise fund and it's not part of Templeton when your rate study has it bold letters on the bottom. I just find that interesting and curious. And that will further muddy the waters, but
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sprang.
Believe it or not, you're gonna end up hearing me say that we should.
Oh, I believe it.
We should probably not put this one on the ballot right now. Why do I say that? Well, I just came from a sewage rate hearing. And in that was 8 citizens from the community. And they were very surprised that the sewage board had outstanding payments to them of over $100,000. The question is why do you have so much money as outstanding? Well, the individuals there did not understand that you couldn't shut off the sewage because the water department is separate. And the question came back.
You can't shut off the water.
Right, no, you couldn't shut off the sewage because it's is separate from the water department, and you can't, right now, it would cost at $1,000 per home to shut that off by digging it up and putting a shut off. They asked why was that? And basically, the answer was back is that when other communities have that, they have their water and sewage bills that go out together. And if there is an issue with one not being paid, then the water gets shut off. And that basically solves the problem of non-payments for the sewerage, and vice versa. They were really surprised at that, and they were wondering why we have that. So you really have to take it into overcoming a lot of folks that do not understand the issue of having a department such as the water department under the light board, which is not considered, as far as they're concerned, as an enterprise. And until you can end up getting through that and having that communicated, you might not end up getting a true picture of what people think of that particular act and understand it. So I would say that you're probably better off putting that until your annual town ballot for the community, so that gives you sufficient time to end up doing some communications.
The reason they